Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of So What Else? I'm really excited to bring you this interview with author Shannon Popkin. Do you love that last name? I'm obsessed with it. Popkin. That's so fun. Anyway, she just came out with a book called Kinda Judgy. And when it was sent to me, I obviously was like, yes, obviously I'm going to read this book and do this interview because Kinda Judgy. I mean, like, amazing title. And also, if you don't think you struggle with judging people, then you probably need to do some self-reflection because we all do, okay? Everyone who is listening to this right now struggles with judging other people and or feeling judged by other people. We get into all of it. Shannon and I talk about why we judge other people, why we feel judged by other people, making assumptions about people, comparisons, just all of it, what we can do about it, the difference between like unjustly judging someone and having like actual discernment about them acting in destructive ways. We just like get into all of the nitty-gritty of it. And I just really appreciated her insight. We even get into at the end talking about, I'm sure many of you have heard, it's been like everywhere, that influencer Emily Kaiser, who tragically lost her son last year, and she recently did an interview about, losing her son and everything that she's gone through. And Shannon and I kind of talked about that from the light of just judgment and how much judgment this woman has been getting and the horrible things people have been saying and the way Emily rehabilitated her relationship with her husband. It's very interesting that that's going on, in the world right now. And it just really beautifully related to this conversation with Shannon. I think you're really going to get a lot out of it. I think that we can all relate to this. As I said, we all feel judged and we all judge. And it's really important to kind of talk about like where that comes from and what we can do about it. So I really hope you enjoy this conversation with me and Shannon Popkin. I have been loving prepping for this interview, reading your book, listening to some other interviews that you've done. I was drawn to your book immediately because of the title, Kinda Judgy. Okay. Like good. Right off the bat, I was like, oh yeah, I'll do this. Like I want to talk to her for sure. Because which maybe I'm like, maybe I like pain because it's like, obviously I feel convicted. I have been known.
Apparently I love pain because every book that I write, it's like, the dregs of my bitter soul,
Right. Okay. So that's what I wanted to ask you is like, I would assume that if somebody, when someone writes a book, I'm going to assume that they feel intimately acquainted with the topic for a certain reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When did you kind of have that moment of like, I'm going to write a book about judgment? Because that doesn't sound fun. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound that fun.
No, it doesn't. I think it was as I was writing my book, Comparison Girl, and noticing that as we compare one another, I think I went into that book thinking mostly about how we compare feeling less than. But then there are these times where we compare down, right?
Yeah.
And we compare from this elevated position. And that was in the chapter where I was talking about comparing sin. And I was noticing it in my life then. But and I did want to explore it more and write more about it. But man, as I wrote this book, I was like, oh, I had not even really hadn't entered in to all the work that the Lord wanted to do in me, as writing this book. And so he truly did. I'm so thankful. It was probably the hardest book that I've had to write, just because he was so much opening my eyes to my own flaws.
Yeah.
And a lot of tears, a lot of temptation to judge while I was writing this book.
I bet.
I think the Lord just always has you dealing with whatever it is that you're going to be talking about. It should never come from a hypocritical position of like, oh, this is your problem and not mine. Oh, no, please don't ever see me that way because the Lord has opened my eyes to all the ways that I am more than kind of judgy. I'm very judgy. And yet he is so good and merciful.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't know, more times than I care to admit, probably say things like, look, I'm no one to judge, but and then I go on and judge. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't do that with my kid, or I would never act like that at blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's as I was reading your book, I was like, Caitlin, you do that a lot. Like, because you pick up a book like yours and you think, I don't think I'm very judgmental. You know what I mean? You're like, no, like I don't really think that I am very judgmental. And then you start catching yourself and you're like, oh, I am.
Yeah,
I
same.
really, yeah,
Yes.
whoops.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Just little things like in my marriage
mhm,
or in my relationships or at church or looking out at the world
yeah.
or just interacting with people like, driving,
Yeah,
right? And
literally,
judging,
yes.
judging
Yeah,
from my driver's seat or
absolutely.
in the community. I mean, there's just so much temptation to judge. And judging is really just drawing a line between right and wrong
Hmm.
and almost putting myself on the position where I'm in the right and you're in the wrong, and I
Yeah.
feel positioned to judge you as if
Hmm.
I have not all done all of these things
Hmm.
myself, right? And so I think that the problem with judging is the pride that comes behind the judgy finger,
Yeah.
right? The finger of judgment always points down from this
Hmm.
elevated position, and yeah, I did not realize how much I was doing that.
Hmm. Yeah. For me, something that I've noticed is that I'm like a one on the Enneagram. So I'm like very big on like, I like things to be done a certain way, and like there's right and
Hmm.
there's wrong, and like
Yes.
and so like I hold myself to a very high standard. I do,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then in turn I hold other people to a high standard.
Yes.
And it's easy for me to be like, this person is like so late.
I can't
Like I would
believe yeah,
never,
I would
yes.
never, yes.
Like, do you
I would never do
realize,
that.
right? Like you
Hmm.
signed up
Hmm.
for this. Why are you so late? My gosh. Like, or you know what I mean? Like, and I notice that because it's like, well, I would never do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then when
As
I
if
want
I'm,
grace,
yeah,
I
as
want
if I'm
everyone to
the
give me grace.
standard.
Totally.
Right. As if
Totally.
I'm the standard. And
Hmm.
yet, now, please let's not talk about being late because that is one of the ways I'm constantly falling short. I don't like to talk about that one. But there are other ones where I like to hold people like I would never do that, as if I am the standard by
Hmm.
which we should judge everyone.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, man, I have fallen short in
Yeah.
every single category. And
Hmm.
so I'm not the standard. God is the standard.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think like sometimes if we're used to holding ourselves to a really high standard, which isn't a bad like obviously it's good to
No.
want to be
Yeah.
good, like right?
Hmm. Yeah.
But if it's coming from like a shame place, like if you're talking to yourself internally all the time, like in a way that's like you suck, you better be better. If
Hmm.
that's the voice that you internally speak to yourself with, you're going to eventually use that voice to talk to everybody else with it because that's your voice. Like you know what I mean? Like that's if
Yes.
that's how you talk to yourself, you're going to eventually talk to everybody like that. You know what I mean? Whether you say it out loud or just in your head, but if you're always thinking bad thoughts about yourself, you're going to eventually be always thinking bad thoughts about everybody else, I feel like.
Yeah, there is a parallel there. There's like this, it kind of runs in tandem
Hmm.
where I'm harshly judging everyone. And then I turn that finger back on myself. Like, I
Yes.
can't believe you
Hmm.
are such a failure. I can't believe you did that again. How could
Hmm.
you fall short? And in both instances, I think we're losing track of the bigger story because, yes, we have all fallen short.
Hmm.
And yet I'm the recipient of great mercy. You
Hmm.
know, when Jesus died on the cross, he paid for that sin. And God is not the one then who's looking at me and saying, I can't believe you.
Hmm.
He's not doing that because he's too just to make me pay twice for what
Hmm.
Jesus has already paid for.
Hmm.
So that's really, I think, either way, I got to hold fast to the bigger story when I'm judging other people or when I'm judging myself.
Hmm.
And really I need to find mercy both for myself and for other people. And really it starts with myself.
Yeah.
And then it flows as the recipient of this great mercy. How dare I, turn in judgment on other people?
Hmm.
I think in this world we're living in, Caitlin, we've got like half of us are like with our big megaphone saying, you are judging, and the other are like, you are wrong. And we're just doing this
Uh-huh.
thing
Uh-huh.
where we're back and forth. But the reality is, if there's a line between right and wrong, we are all on that side of the line, on the wrong side of the line. And we deserve, and there is a judge who judges, and he is God. And yet that's not the full story. The full story is that our judge entered in on, among all the unrighteous people, and he was the only one who was righteous. And yet he died on the cross for us. Like he took all of God's judgment on himself and paid for it so that we could move on the other side of the line to be righteous.
Hmm.
I mean, that is like the terms of this agreement are absurdly in our favor.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
bring nothing. He gives it all to us so that we can be on the righteous side of the line. And then, I mean, how ridiculous on this righteous line for us to elevate ourselves again and then be like, you are wrong. Like it just doesn't
Hmm.
make any sense.
Yeah, you're so right. Yes, absolutely. I think you mentioned in the book at some point that a lot of times judgment will come if we're assuming things. Like we make assumptions
Yes.
and then judgment comes. Talk to me a little bit
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah, we assume we know things, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like, look at the Pharisees. A lot of this book is we're talking about the Pharisees because they were super judgy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing a parallel with church people. You know, the longer that we've been around the church, the more we judge and feel, positioned in this condescending place. And yet, when we're judging, we're often, like the Pharisees did, we're assuming we know things about people. We assume that we know, like, what's the contents of somebody's heart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at the way that the Pharisees judged Jesus. They assumed that they knew. They're like, they said repeatedly, we know that
Mm-hmm.
he is not from God. We know, they thought of him as being controlled by demons. Like, they clearly did
Yeah.
not know. And yet they assumed that they did.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that in myself. I can be quite a Pharisee.
Mm-hmm.
As I was writing this book, actually, I remembered this instance where a friend of mine about 10 years ago, I had invited her to be on my prayer team. I have this group of people who pray for me as I
Mm-hmm.
speak and write. And she didn't respond. And she's a really close friend. And I was like, man, I can't believe
Yeah.
that she wouldn't, like, why would she not want to be on my team? And so then I supplied the answer. I was like, oh, I know what's going on here. I know. She's judging me. She is over there judging me, thinking like, who does Shannon think she is?
Yeah.
Writing these books, speaking. I know she's like, she doesn't want any part of this because she knows the real me. And
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
knows
And she's
that I should.
thinking, who does she think she is or whatever? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she's judging me. And it made me want to judge her right back, which I
Yep.
think is often the pattern. And so I just in my head decided like, I'm tired of being judged by her. I'm just going to pull back from this relationship, which looking back, it makes me so sad. And as I was writing, I realized that I thought, oh my gosh, I've held court in my head. I have, supplied her arguments and my own, and I've issued the verdict. She's guilty. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm just an average person, and I'm just
Uh-huh.
stepping out in faith to do what God called me to do. But she's wrong to judge me. So I decided like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that how much I've been judging her because like literally every time I think of her, that's in the back of my mind. Like she
Uh-huh.
didn't want to be on that prayer team. She's judging me, which
Yeah.
is so ridiculous. So I sent her this message, this voice text, and I just said, look, I think I've been judging you. About 10 years ago, I asked you on this
Wow.
team. And I said, the Lord's convicting my heart. I realize how wrong I am. I don't know why. And I said, you don't have to reply. You don't even have to supply the reason why you didn't want to be on the team. But if you've felt like I've kind of pulled away, I just wanted to confess, I've really
Mm-hmm.
judged you and I'm sorry. Well, she texted back like 2 seconds later and was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my goodness, Shannon, I'm so glad you reached out. She said, I have never once, like I have never thought those things about you ever. I'm so excited for all the ways God is using you. I'm like totally supportive. And she's like, I kind of thought I was on the prayer team and I don't know, I don't know what happened.
Wires got crossed.
Like,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, honestly, the Lord restored that friendship. And
Mm,
it was so sweet. I mean, it was so
yeah.
hard to admit that,
Mm-hmm.
and she was so humble about it. She was just
Yeah.
like, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
And now we're now empty nesters. We both had our kids at the same time. And so
Mm.
she and her husband came to visit us last fall and we just had this sweet visit. And I just feel
Uh,
like I gained a friend back, which makes me so happy. But there's also this sadness of like, how much have I missed out on
yeah.
assuming I know things about people?
Yeah.
And let me just add one more thing. When I was in counseling with a situation where we were trying to reconcile, there was
Mm-hmm.
a broken relationship. The counselor just mentioned to me, like, look, Shannon, you are super jaded. This other
Mm.
person is really trying here. And I was like, well, we'll see. Like, I don't know. Like, do I really believe, do I really take at face value what they're saying?
Mm.
And he was like, you know, all you have to work with is what the person is saying
Mm-hmm.
and the actions in front of you. Like yeah, of course there's a chance that,
Mm-hmm.
they're being disingenuous, but if that's happening, that'll surface and that's
Yeah.
the time to deal with it. Not right now. And he challenged me that instead of assuming that I know things, instead of judging all things, to hope all things. That's what First Corinthians says, to hope that this really is true and genuine, and that there are good things happening in the hearts of other people. And I cannot even tell you how transformative that has been in my relationships, to hope all things instead of judge all things.
Yeah. That's so good. I mean, good on you for reaching out to that friend. I mean, after 10 years, I think I would have just been like, whatever, like, it just is what it is, we'll let it die. But the fact that you like reached out and you were like, no, I'm going to like admit this to her, like, that's huge. And now that friendship is restored. That's major.
I know. I just hope that it will be first fruits for this kind of judgy book. You know?
Yep.
I just hope that as people read it, and actually I've already been getting notes from people.
Good.
It's been pretty cool.
Nice.
Probably a dozen different people have reached out and said, I'm in chapter 1 and the Lord is convicting me, you know, somebody about a relationship with a daughter-in-law. And she's like, I feel like I've judged my daughter-in-law, and I'm going to reach out to her today and ask how I can pray for her. And then another one was like, I think I'm judging my daughter's boyfriend. Like I've just like, I have thought things about him, and I'm going to invite them over, you know, for a beach day. It's just like these beautiful, you know, heart work of these women who are like, oh, I do see this in myself, and I'm going to do something about it.
Yeah.
That's how, I mean, the Lord was not going to just let that go with me, with my friend Renee.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think he wanted to deal with my heart. And I can count like at least a dozen instances as I wrote this book that the Lord was pressing me to respond, to do something. Now, in some instances, there's nothing to do. Like I talked in the book about my mother-in-law, and she's gone to be with Jesus.
Yeah.
But there's always a response in my heart, not just to, you know, to think new things, but also to do new things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting. You know, if you feel like the story with your friend, like if you feel like she was judging, you felt judged by her, so then you judged her. And I think that is huge. You know, I remember even just, I don't know, not that long ago, maybe a year or so ago, I was around someone who, like, a mom made a comment about screen time with kids or something, but like I would never give my kid like a tablet or something like that. Meanwhile, my child had a tablet like literally at that moment because I was trying to work and had no one to, whatever, it's a whole thing. And I was like, I felt so judged by her, you know what I mean? Which, granted, I actually don't think this person was connecting those dots. I think she was literally just talking, and she had nothing, she had no concept of like my child and what my child was doing. But I felt so judged by her that like I, in my mind, immediately started like picking apart her mothering. You know what I mean? And I found myself being like, well, at least I don't do this. Like, or at least, you know what I mean? And then it's like you catch yourself and you're like, ew, Caitlin, like don't do that. You know what I mean? But that's such a natural reaction. You feel judged, so you're going to judge, or you're going to say, oh, you think I'm bad at this? Well, at least I'm not as bad as this, you know, like what you're doing or what that person's doing. And it just, it starves out any chance of any kind of friendship if you're going to have that kind of like an attitude.
It creates distance, doesn't it? Judging always creates distance. And I think the reason that we judge, like what you just pointed out, like at least I don't do that. I think we get these little judgy boosts of pride, right? As we lift ourselves up.
Yeah.
We feel better about ourselves when we point out their flaws.
Yes.
There's this time my daughter would come, a season in her life, she's like 4, she'd come down after I put her to bed, and she would stand on the stairs and go, Coley got out of bed again, her little 2-year-old brother. And I'd be like, uh-oh, sweetie, and what about you?
Yeah, and you're out of bed telling me that.
Tell me this, right? But I think, you know, we get these little boosts of pride to notice in other people, and yet, you know, we're blind to our own blind spots, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we can do that, and it does like just create distance. As we pull back, judging them, they pull back, judging us, and the Lord wants for us to be integrated, particularly as believers. And believers can be more judgy than anybody.
Yes.
Because believers are constantly aware of God's ways and his laws. And yet, in the back of this book, I have like 3 appendixes. And one of them was like, am I right to judge their behavior?
Yeah.
And so am I right to judge their beliefs, and am I right to judge their behavior? And I think we've got to keep these different brackets as believers segmented, because we've got pillar beliefs that, you know, they're those are the foundational beliefs, like that Jesus was God. And if you take one of those away, people are going to fall. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
dangerous. And so we should judge one another when there's false teaching and when like we should say,
Mm-hmm.
no, that is wrong. Like we should, we're actually wrong to not judge in those instances. But then we've got these persuasions. And in this instance, think of our different denominations and our different churches that people are persuaded,
Yes.
like the Bible says both things, and yet they're persuaded one way or another. And
Mm-hmm.
so in those ways, I think it's fine for us to persuade one another and say,
Mm-hmm.
well, but look at this text and look at this text. And I
Yeah.
think we probably get closer to the unity God has for us when we're having conversations. But then we've got our third tier, and that's like the one where you're talking about screen time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the category of personal convictions.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we're both looking at the same verse in the Bible, right? The same parenting
Mm-hmm.
verses or the same verses. Like in this instance, it would be about, um, maybe discipline and,
Mm-hmm.
like using our time or whatever, things
Yeah.
like that. And we're both looking at the same verses and we've come to different conclusions. We're applying scripture. There is no verse that says thou shalt have no screen time.
Right.
Thou shalt have no iPad in thy house
Yeah.
or whatever, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. And so we as believers have the freedom to make the decisions on how God is inviting us to live. And we've got this passage in Romans 14 where you've got this church and they have differences. We've got two different categories of people or two different camps, and they're dealing with this situation in two different ways. And his
Mm-hmm.
instruction to them is you cannot look down and judge on the person who is
Mm-hmm.
doing it differently, nor
Yeah.
can you treat the person who like has all these extra rules for themselves, like with contempt, like, oh, I can't believe, like both are wrong responses. You're to live in unity. And he makes this case, like, this is really between you and God.
Mm-hmm.
And you shouldn't even, so like, Caitlin, as you're having these thoughts about your friend, like, I can't believe she does this, or she's having these thoughts about you.
Mm-hmm.
God's like, oh, no, 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 no. Court
Yeah.
is adjourned.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is not appropriate for believers to be in
Mm-hmm.
their heads judging other believers about personal convictions. That's not our place.
Yeah.
That's just a waste of time and so counterproductive.
Yes. That's such a good way to put it because I heard someone say one time it's like closed-fisted issues and open-handed issues or whatever. Like the closed issues are things like Jesus is God. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like those things where it's like these are the tenets of our faith. Like we believe this. But you're right. Like there's those open-handed things like there's entire denominations that are like against like instruments. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
There
they don't
are.
use musical
Yeah.
instruments. Like or
Mm-hmm.
the alcohol thing, that's a huge
Yep.
one.
Totally.
Parenting in general, like spanking or not, or just, or
Yes.
like screen time, or the way you have your babies, like at your house or in a
Mm-hmm. Yes.
hospital. Like there's all these
Exactly.
things like that are just like people sometimes make them spiritual issues. And it's like,
Yeah.
like people will make your diet a spiritual issue. You know
Yes.
what I mean? And so
Yes.
it's like, these are not like make or break things. These are personal convictions.
Yes.
And
That's
it's
right.
very hard to not put our own personal convictions on other people.
Mm-hmm. It is. And yet we're given very clear instructions. This is between you and the Lord, and you're not really to be even trying to persuade one another. Now, I don't think it's
Yeah.
wrong for us to share the reason behind our beliefs, but like I remember a time that a woman in my small group, well, there was another conflict, and I went to this woman who's in my small group. She's one of my closest friends, and I said, like, I'm just struggling in this relationship. Is there something you see in me? Like, is there something I'm doing that's creating all this tension? I don't know what the problem is. And she looked at me and said, you know what, Shannon, sometimes you do seem like you're kind of above us. You seem like
Oh.
you're kind of like you see yourself as superior. And I was like, I do? And she said, well, I'm just thinking about like drinking, as we're all drinking and you're not having a drink. I just picture you thinking of yourself as above us. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I'm totally not. Like
Yeah.
it's just, we've had alcoholism in my
Mhm.
family and it scares me. And so I never really acquired the taste for alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while, I'll have a glass of wine. There are certain things I like, but most of it, I don't like beer. I just don't like
Mm-hmm.
it. And so I'm just like, I'm going to stay away from that. But you all just go ahead and enjoy. I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel that in my heart. But here's what I walked away with. I'm like, here's one of my closest friends, my
Mm.
closest friends. And if she does not realize that I struggle in all of these different ways,
Mm.
like, I mean, that's just one little area of life alcohol about. Like, and I realized like I'm not actually disclosing all of my deepest struggles with my closest
Mm-hmm.
friends, because if I were, she would know that I am no hero of the
Mm.
story, like that I am so fallen, that I have so many flaws. And so it was really like a conviction of just sharing my life with the
Mm-hmm.
people that are closest to me. And so like sharing my struggles, like in parenting, in my marriage,
Mm-hmm.
in my walk with Jesus, like they should know me well enough to know that I am not judging them as I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a glass of wine. They should know, like she should know I struggle with
Mm-hmm.
food addiction, and I'm so worried about food addiction, like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's, I can't deny myself food,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so,
Yes.
and so that is such a battle for me of
Mm-hmm.
overeating, and it's a
Yeah.
lifelong struggle. And so she should know, like, oh, well, maybe that's, alcohol, like that. It just
Right.
makes sense that she doesn't
Yes.
want one more thing to have to
Correct.
manage. So anyway, I just think we have to have better communication with one another
Yeah.
about our true and real struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that gets rid of some of this sense that somebody else is, seeing themselves as superior.
Yeah, totally. Ugh, there's so much there. Like in the Christian community in general, I think that people who are not Christians feel judged by Christians. And
They
then
do.
I think that people who are in the church feel judged by each other, as we were just saying,
Yes.
like different denominations, da, 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 da. And that is so like sad to even admit out loud, because it's like Christians are so judgy, but like we're supposed to be the least judgy.
Yeah.
Why do you think we're getting it so twisted?
Yeah. Well, I think we lose our place in the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned before, I think we forget the fact, like, think about that unbeliever. They're on the outside looking in. I love this story. I'm looking at 6 stories of the Bible
Mm-hmm.
in this book, kind of judgy. And one of them is the story of Rahab.
Mm-hmm.
And so Rahab is a prostitute, and she's in the city full of wickedness. Like, think of the city of Jericho, like, represents the unbelievers in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And think of this, like, God is coming against them in judgment. And that's really true. Like, that's the story of the Bible. The end of
Mm-hmm.
the story, Jesus comes the first time as this beautiful, merciful servant, but he comes again as the judge. His robe is drenched in blood, it says. And so, like, this is the God's army coming against Jericho. We should have compassion for them.
Mm-hmm.
And how does God see them? So here's how God sees them. There is one woman in this entire city who is not like boarding up her life and saying, like, we're just going to like hold out and respond to God with like, defensiveness and like, no,
Mm-hmm.
you can't have this city. This doesn't belong to you. There is one woman in the city who actually believes that's true. I mean, I think all of us struggle to believe that God is the owner of everything, and that he's the righteous judge over everything, and that
Mm-hmm.
all that we have belongs to him. Like, none of us really accept that willingly. And yet there's this woman in Jericho who actually believes it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the story of these 2 spies who are going into Jericho. They think they're on a reconnaissance mission,
Mm-hmm.
but by the end of the story, we see, no, they're actually on a mission, a rescue mission to
Mm-hmm.
get this woman and bring her out. That's the fulfillment of the story, and that's how God sees the Rahabs in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does he's looking? His eyes are looking to and fro, and I mean, the whole world is like Jericho. Everybody has boarded up their lives against God. They don't want to hear from him. They don't want to accept that he's the judge that they answer to. But he's looking for that one woman who's like waving her white hanky
Mm-hmm.
and saying, like, where is she? I'm going to send her on a rescue mission. And often he involves people like us.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, I told the story of this woman who, as a teenager, she had a friend who was a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And a public school situation. And her friend's mom was like this Bible study leader. And after high school, she wanted to stay in touch with her friend. And so she was like sending messages or letters. This was before, digital.
Mm-hmm.
And her friend didn't know. And so like the mom was confiscating all of the
Oh,
messages. She found out later and she's like, man,
yeah.
why was this mother so against her?
Mm-hmm.
And really at that time, she's like like late high school, early college, she's actually coming to faith. This woman is coming to faith.
Mm.
And there are other people who are like extending grace to her, like her, I think it was a coach or somebody who's like investing in her and having like extra time, like showing her things in the Bible. And she's like, I felt so judged by that Christian mom.
Mm.
And when I look at that, I'm like thinking of that mom, like, look, the Lord sent your Rahab to your door, right?
Mm-hmm.
He sent
Mm-hmm.
your Rahab to your door. Maybe he sends us to their door, them to our door.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But he wants for us to help build these bridges. Here is a girl who's coming to faith, and you're confiscating all communication. Like she's missing
Yeah.
out here, right? And
Yeah.
so I think we just don't know
Mm-hmm.
what the Lord is doing in the lives of other people. And yeah, Christians, we are kind of judgy and we are
Mm-hmm.
very judgmental of those who are in the world, and they're right.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's ironic. Actually, they're right that we're kind
Yeah.
of judgy.
Yeah.
And so I think what we have to keep in mind is the only difference between us and the people, the other Rahabs in our lives, is we first have been rescued, right?
Yeah.
And he uses us to rescue others. And
Mm-hmm.
so just keeping the mind frame of who we are,
Mm-hmm.
we too, we're just like Rahab, we're fallen and we weren't cleaned up either when he came to get us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's so good. We talked about how making assumptions leads to judgment. And
Yep.
I know that also comparing leads to judgment. Why do you
Yeah.
think that is?
Yeah. Well, remember I talked about my book, Comparison Girl.
Yeah.
I think often we think of comparison as feeling less than and like I'm comparing up to somebody who's superior. But there's this whole other side of comparison. And when we're comparing down with this attitude of superiority, like our contempt always says two things at once. It says, you are awful, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are awful, and I am nothing like you. That's what contempt is saying, like this disgust that we hold in our hearts for some other sinner,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's like your brother-in-law who's cheating
Mm-hmm.
or the pastor who's morally fallen,
Mm-hmm.
has embezzled funds maybe, or like the neighbor who is so mean to her kids or whatever, like whatever it is, your contempt and your disgust for this person over here is saying something about you. It's
Mm-hmm.
saying that you see yourself different from
Mm-hmm.
them. And we see that over and over and over in the Bible. There's this
Mm-hmm.
prophet Jonah who's looking with disgust at these Ninevites. He's so filled with contempt. He's comparing himself with them, and he sees himself as this way, and they
Yeah.
are this way. They're so less than. They're so unworthy of God's mercy because actually the Ninevites are falling to their knees in repentance,
Mm-hmm.
and God is gonna like do away with the judgment that He has promised. And Noah is so mad about it.
Mm-hmm.
He is furious. And so what God says to him is, He's like, Jonah, are you right to be angry? Like, should I not have compassion on these people? And
Mm-hmm.
the way that He describes the word that God uses to describe the Ninevites is not the word people. Like, shouldn't I have compassion on this city full of people? He says, this city full of humans.
Mm.
And so look how he's humanizing these people that Jonah has contempt for. And by talking about them as humans, he's just kind of leveled the playing field,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just put Jonah together in the same human race as these Ninevites. And that's what God does. He sees all of us
Mm-hmm.
as humans. We're all humanity. And so when we compare down at other people, God's like, I don't know. No, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
You are a part of this fallen humanity.
Mm-hmm.
He puts us together with other humans and he invites us to have compassion for them the way that he has compassion on people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the role that comparison plays. It's like it's this distancing where God reunites us. Like, no, we're all humans here.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked about how, if it's a personal conviction type of a thing, like we have to learn to just be like, that is like the alcohol thing with you. For example, with your friends, you're like, I choose not to drink. That is a me thing. It has nothing to do with you. What if someone is doing something actually wrong? Like, what if we know of someone, one of our girlfriends is actively cheating on her husband?
Yeah.
What is the situation there where it's like,
Mhm.
obviously in that kind of a situation, it's like, well, don't judge her. Well, you know,
Yeah. Right.
like
Right.
what are we doing there? How do we have like
Exactly.
discernment?
Yeah. We've got all sorts of passages, Caitlin, where we're taught to what to do when somebody's in sin.
Hmm.
Go get the wanderer. Don't just let them wander off. Go get them.
Hmm.
And Matthew 18, confront habitual sin because
Hmm.
we together are a community of believers and together corporately, we represent God to the whole world. We're in partnership with him. We're telling the world, look, this is what God says is good.
Uh-huh.
And our lives, our community, that we're supposed to represent him. And so we're actually wrong to not confront our friend,
Uh-huh.
and I think sometimes we've got to play out, well, like, am I the person? I don't know if I'm exactly the person because if I've never met her before, like there may be
Sure.
someone else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think we are so conditioned to do not judge, right? Again, the Bible
Hmm.
does say that, but the point is do not judge hypocritically.
Yeah.
When Jesus says do not judge, he follows up with the whole speck and log thing.
Yep.
And the point is not get the log out of your eye of your own sin so that you can close your eyes. It's like get that log out of your eye so that you can see clearly to help somebody else with their own sin. And
Hmm.
so it really makes a difference when you come to your friend. Let's say she is a close friend, she's having an affair, you know about it.
Hmm.
It makes a huge difference when you go to her and say, look, you are wrong. And I can't believe you're doing this. I'm disgusted with you. Look at, there's one way, the wrong
Hmm.
way, I think. But there's this other way of like, look, I too am a sinner and I have sinned. I have sexual sin in my past.
Hmm.
And I know how it has broken and destroyed me.
Hmm.
And I know the fallout in relationships. And I'm begging you to defer to the one who gives us good judgment. And look at what he says in his
Hmm.
story. And look at who you are. Like you are redeemed. Like remember the big story. I'm not coming to you in judgment. I'm coming to you as a friend, reminding you
Hmm.
of the one true judge. So it just makes a difference how we come.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. If someone's listening to this, oh, go on, go.
Well, I was just gonna say that doesn't mean that they're gonna respond rightly. Just
Yes,
because you
totally.
come, just because you come the right way. I mean, I have pled with friends
Hmm.
who are considering divorce,
Hmm.
considering affairs, considering just all sorts of things. I've pled, and they're like,
Hmm.
no, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. I
Yeah.
don't. And I think my husband and I were just talking about this weekend. Like there are statistics that just came out for the I think it was Gen Z, I can't remember, but where more than 50% of our culture now thinks that it is morally wrong to abort a baby. And so we were talking though about how like I don't know that actually is a deciding factor because I think it's like, yeah, I know it's wrong to eat just junk food all the time, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Like it's like
Sure.
I might say it's wrong and still do whatever I want to do. And
Hmm.
so it's a twofold thing of like who's gonna be the authority in my life, who's gonna decide right from wrong.
Hmm.
And I might have a friend who's like, yeah, I agree with you. It'd be better for me to do, or it would be right for me to do what God says, but I'm going to do what I
But I
want.
don't want
And
to. Yeah.
I cannot endure this anymore. I can't
Hmm.
endure this hard marriage. I can't endure, like giving up this affair. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And really what we're turning to is enslavement to ourselves and our
Yeah.
own selfish desires. And God has so much more for us, so much better for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if someone's listening to this and they're thinking like, okay, I'm kind of judgy. Whoops. What do you say to them today? What's their first step?
Hmm. Well, I think it's putting yourself in the story, and there's a reason that I wanted to look at stories of the Bible
Yeah.
instead of just like this. If I go back like maybe 10, maybe 15 years, I created this elaborate chart of do not judge and judge rightly, like and when to do
Mm,
which and what were all the condition statements and all, this very big chart. But I think the chart. I gave it to my Bible study group. I think the chart only made me more judgy because now
mm.
I could determine with
There's
precision.
rules.
Yes,
Yeah.
I got all the rules in place and I
Yeah.
knew when everybody was doing it wrong and when I was doing it right.
Hmm.
And so I think it's more than knowing. It's really got to be
Yeah.
this heart thing. Judgment happens in the heart. It happens when we hold court in our heads, like I did with my friend Renee. It happens. It's this matter of the heart, of seeing myself as this elevated person and condescending judgment. That's if you're like, yeah, I think I'm kind of judgy. Well, it starts with recognizing where my heart is.
Yeah.
And I can't change my own heart. Really, I can't.
Yeah.
What I can do though is I can over and over and over put myself in a position where I encounter this merciful judge. And the way that I do that is by opening my Bible. And I think one of the best places we can go in our Bible is the stories of the Bible. Because the stories, we're not just like innocent bystanders standing on the curb looking in on a story. We enter in, we feel things. We encounter things from within a story. And I think encountering this merciful judge, like put yourself on in that scene where Jesus is on a cross between two criminals and they're judging him and he doesn't judge right back. Like put yourself in that scene and look at his mercy, like how he prays, Father, have mercy on them. Like don't judge them immediately. He prays that they might be forgiven, and he doesn't know. One was still falling short in the end, but the other one receives this mercy. Jesus says, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." That mercy, I think, what changed that man, because he started out being just as corrupt and judging as the other one, but what changes his heart in the story is seeing Jesus's mercy.
Yeah.
When he says, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." He's like looking at this man beside him. How could he be that way?
Yeah.
And I think that's true for us too, Caitlin. If we see the problem in ourselves and we want to change, we can't change ourselves, but God can change us. And the way that he helps our hearts to change, softens the judgy pride in our hearts, it's by entering into this story and encountering the mercy, this overarching story of the mercy of this merciful judge who died in our place and who melts our hearts and who invites us then to be merciful like our merciful Father.
That's good. It's so good. What can we do in the moment when we start feeling those critical thoughts? How can we catch ourselves better and right it?
Yeah, make it right. Well, I've got this heart check that I would love to send.
Yeah.
And I think it's got all of these New Testament verses. I didn't want to just look at these stories to the exclusion of all the teaching parts of the Bible. But I think it's like evaluating our own hearts. So here, this one is like, am I judging by appearances? Am I making judgments based on prejudice? Am I just looking at, skin deep? Am I weighing her motives or judging her heart? Am I assuming, this is one we talked about earlier, am I assuming I know more than I actually do, right? I got to ask myself that. Am I discriminating based on the past or based on my experiences? So am I judging by appearances? Here's another one. Am I a judgy hypocrite? Because this is what Jesus warned against. So this is weighing my own heart. Have I magnified her little sin and, minimized my big sin?
Yeah.
Right? Have I done that? Because pride is a big sin in the Bible. How do I do the same things? Right. And so this is a good question to ask yourself in the moment. How have I done the same exact thing that I'm judging this other person for?
Yeah.
Maybe we can come back to that one in a moment. How am I being overly critical of something super small?
Yeah.
We're to overlook sin.
Yeah.
How have I forgotten that my judgment invites judgment, right?
Yeah.
Have I forgotten? Jesus said, don't complain about another so that you will not be judged. So you've got to be careful here. How have I wrongly kept a record of wrong? So I've got a whole list of questions that I'd love to send. I've got a free am I kind of judgy quiz, and you get this heart check as a response. But that one, I think, okay, if you want just one little practical idea, asking myself, how have I done the same things that I'm judging her for?
Yeah.
Because what that does is it kind of puts myself side by side. That saying, the foot of the cross, there's always level footing at the foot of the cross.
Yeah.
And sometimes what I have done in the past, when I am so tempted to judge someone and God is convicting me, my heart, I am so judgmental. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll pray in plural. And I'll notice how I do the same things as I'm judging this other person for. And instead of praying like, God help her because she's such a bad mom, or she's such a terrible wife, or she's like not managing her money well, or she is sexually impure, or whatever it is. Instead of praying for her, I pray for us. Lord, help us both. We both have sexual sin in our lives. Lord, please help us. We are both disrespectful wives. Lord, help us. We are both so prone to wander. Help us as moms. We both fall short in so many ways. So this puts my heart in the right posture to maybe reach out and help this friend who's falling short versus judging this friend. I think that's been one of the most practical things that has helped me.
Absolutely. That's really good. That's really, really, really good. I think that like sometimes it's easy to point out things that other people are doing that we're really guilty of, because it feels good to be like, ugh.
Yes. That's called hypocrisy, right? That's the Pharisees, right?
Yeah. That's really good. Oh, Shannon, thank you so much. I mean, we could go on all day, but this is such an important conversation. It's so timely, especially, in the time of social media and all this stuff. Yes. It's just like we're constantly looking at other people and making judgments about their lives, like it's happening like crazy. This is like a little bit of a tangent, but I was just having a conversation with someone about this last night. There's this influencer, Emily Kaiser, whose son tragically drowned in her family pool. And she recently came out and did her first interview about it. It's like been a year since it happened. And it's so crazy reading the comments, because there's half of the people that are like, we are so sorry this happened to you. We love you. We're here for you. And then there's people that are like, you have no right to be a mother, like that you allowed this to happen to your child. Like your husband should go to jail. He wasn't watching him. How dare you not have a pool fence, and then there's all these side conversations, that you hear like on different podcasts and stuff where people are like, I would never have a pool without a pool fence. Obviously she didn't love her son, like all of these conversations. And it's just like, A, you're not her. And like and B, like you're all lying if you've honestly said that you've never taken your eyes off your child for 3 minutes. Like that's insane. Yes. Like if you're honestly looking me in the eye and telling me you've never taken your eye off your kid.
Yeah.
And it's like people are looking for a way to be like, I'm a better mom than she is. So this couldn't happen to me because I'm better than her.
It's those judgy boosts of pride that we get, right?
Yes.
Whereas what does humility say? Humility is like, oh my goodness, look at the ways that I could have just as easily put my child in a situation and lost my child. Like I could have been that mom.
Yes.
And God has been so kind to me that he has made up for my lack, right? And that he didn't allow that. And even if he did, he would still be good.
Yes.
But I was a mom who was distracted. I was a mom who, was not careful enough. I was a mom who took unnecessary risks, maybe with my driving or with my phone or whatever, like I have fallen short in all of those ways. And so what that does when we see ourselves, it's sort of like Jonah, God having this compassion as the human race who we've all fallen short and we have all sinned. There's no category of sin that any of us can stand apart from and say, well, not me in that one. Maybe not to the same extent, but we've all sinned in all of these ways, or we've all, and I don't even know that I would call that a sin, right? This woman, it's just a broken, fallen world.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that she had safeguards in place, that she was trying to be a mom who cared about safety. It was a mistake, right? But even if, like, let's say, she left him unattended, she was very reckless and did something actually wrong, and this happened. Well, even in that situation, I too am a mom who have been recklessly wrong.
Yes.
And so that allows me, what that does, it ignites my compassion for this other person.
Yes.
Seeing myself in the same fallen human race, it allows me to have compassion for her. Maybe I could just share one more story. There's a mom that I know who is a foster mom, and the child, she's had a lot of different foster kids, but this boy Matthew that she is very severely disabled, and it's because of how his mom treated him as an infant. It's just such a sad story. And so one day I'm watching my friend feed this little boy who should be old enough to feed himself. And I say to her, like, do you ever struggle with judging her?
Yeah.
his mom. Do you ever think like, I can't believe she would do that, And look at the price that this innocent little boy has to pay for the rest of his life. He is going to pay for his whole life. And she said to me, you know what, Shannon, by God's grace, I don't. Because when I think back to myself as a young mom, I had so much support in place. I had a loving husband. I had my mom. I had my sisters. I had a church community. I had financial stability. I had support of doctors and friends. And even with all that support, I found motherhood very challenging and
Yes.
very difficult. And there were
Yeah.
moments that I was tempted to do things that were abhorrent as a mom. And so she's like, I look at this woman and she had none of those things. She was alone in the world. She had no support. And so sometimes I think of her there in jail and I think of like, maybe she'd like a picture of him or maybe she'd like an update about him. So I try to reach out. I mean, I just was so astounded
Wow. Yeah.
by her compassion. Look at the two different ways of looking at that same situation,
Yeah.
in judgment or in compassion. And how did she get from judgment to compassion? She saw herself in the same story as this woman,
Yes.
And she actually saw herself not as the elevated one, but the one who had been given more privileges, right? And so I think that is helpful, right? As we're
Yeah, it
looking at
is.
other people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. That's so, so good because you're right. It would be so easy to just be like, gosh, like, what, like this woman, like, how dare she even have a baby if she was going to do this? But you're right. It's such a mindset shift to be like, she had every odd stacked against her.
Yeah.
And me, I had all the odds in my favor. And I still had days where I was like, I'm not going to make it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like when my kids were little.
But I also want to say, like, I can't remember if that mom has gone to court yet, but I want the full effect of the law on this woman because what she did was clearly wrong.
Correct.
And I want for the judgment to be in like
fitting
parallel,
of the crime. Yeah. Yeah.
fitting of what this little boy has lost. And so like I don't want a world where we lose track of true judgment, like we want judges to do their role and really we want God to be the judge who judges. And yet we find ourselves in the category of the fallen human race. And so showing compassion for one another should be normative for us.
Yeah. Yeah. When that influencer I was talking about who lost her son, she did that interview. I don't even think she's a Christian. And the interviewer asked her, because it happened on her husband's watch. And he said, most people are saying like, why didn't you leave him? Like, how could you have forgiven him? And she said, I struggled with a lot of anger at the beginning. And then I realized this so easily could have been me. Yeah. And I would want my husband to forgive me.
Yes, exactly.
And so I have forgiven him. And like, I think that will stay with me forever. Like when I heard her say that, like this woman doing this interview, like I said, I don't even think she's a Christian. And she's talking about this horrible thing that she's gone through. And she's like, I forgive him because I would want him to forgive me because this could have happened on my watch. And it just happened to not,
And then turn that around to her husband, okay? As the one who's been forgiven. Like, can you even imagine if he, after losing their son, and he's been given this extravagant grace by his wife, very, very beautiful forgiveness. Imagine if he turns and starts judging her for being, making mistakes in her parenting. Like, can you even imagine? But that is our position as children of God who've been forgiven. And I mean, it's a lot more extravagant forgiveness than what has been displayed by this wife to her husband. We have been completely and utterly forgiven as if we have never done anything wrong.
Yeah.
That is our standing before God. We stand as righteous ones. I mean, like I said, the terms are absurdly in our favor. We've done nothing to bring ourselves into this right standing. Jesus took all the judgment, gave us his righteousness. And so how unfitting for us in that place of the ones who have been forgiven to turn on others and just start judging harshly and critically. Like that that doesn't fit.
Yeah. So good. Shannon, thank you so much for everything that you've shared today. This is so good. I will link all your stuff in the notes, the quiz, your book, the website, everything. Just thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. And I know this is going to help a lot of people.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.